Hello, everyone. It's okay. It's okay, Melanie. It's okay. You haven't missed anything. You were like, why can't I see Grant or Blue? Why is this not working? Why is he 4 minutes late? Yes, thank you. I was giving everyone a chance to come. That's what it was to arrive here. So awesome. Here we are for another exciting Obvio Q&A. I think we might have a couple of questions that have already come through, but you can post questions on the Ask a Question button on the dashboard you came through, and we can also I'll keep an eye on the chat. But I'm teching my own show. I'm solo at the moment, so bear with me a little bit. We'll get there. What have we got here? We've got a question from Jeff that came through. We've discussed the possibility of an Obvio chat feature on the dashboard, similar to Dead Simple Chat. Is this on the roadmap? If so, when might it launch? Yeah, it's funny. I was literally just in a meeting talking about that 10 minutes ago. It is something that we really want because we see a lot of value in it, and I think it's probably something like it depends on the size of the audience. So obviously we've got to build it out to scale to a large event audience, and so therefore I think it would probably be less like chat, like live chat that happens in Zoom, for example, and a bit more like discussion forum, but somewhere in between. And so the idea that the comments are kind of updating, and so you might have people are making a few comments, and then you see sort of five comments pop up at once, or that type of thing. So that's, I think, the direction that we would go with a built-in system, which means if you really want sort of high-speed, immediate, real-time chat, then I think using something like Dead Simple Chat is a good way to go. I mean, particularly when we haven't got anything at the moment. Um, but you see what I'm saying? It's not probably not going to replace the functionality of something like Dead Simple Chat. And for those that have never heard of that weird service, deadsimplechat.com is just like some of these other services that you can embed on your website. So like Slido, we've talked about before, where you could embed that into your dashboard. Dead Simple Chat is another one you can do that same type of thing, but then people can chat live. So have you messed around with it, Jeff? Have you actually tried it?
Yeah, I used Dead Simple Chat for a recent event and just loved it. It just would be nice to have everything in Avio versus another outside service, another subscription. You know how it goes.
Totally.
Plus, our community gets what we need it to do. What I liked about it, so for my events, when I'm doing training for adults, Zoom chat is fine. When I'm doing presentations for schools, speaking to schools, I don't give students access to Zoom. So the teachers have the Zoom feed. They can put that on the smart board or the projector, but the students only have access to the dashboard. So they have, I'm setting up attendee rule. So they can send emojis and it pops up on my screen in studio. They love that. They can participate in some other things. But right now, for like polling and things like that, I'm using Kahoot for students. But then you're always trying to limit the experience, right? Like ideally, um, we already have two things. Like they're watching the event in Zoom, but then they're interacting via the dashboard, right? Our attendees for the majority of our events here. That's how it's working. And so you've already got two things you're managing. And depending on the device, I mean, especially folks that aren't tech savvy, you'll hear people ask, "Oh, well, what is the dashboard?" Or "How do I get back to that?" Or "Oh,
Mm.
I guess, wait," and they'll go to the help desk, and "I can't find my link in the email," even though they have five emails with the same link. But so it's always like, how do we trim that down as small as possible? And so when it came to Dead Simple Chat, what I loved is it allowed the students to have some chat feature, but without all the Zoom craziness. And then we could kind of lock that down and manage it a little differently.
And you found that there was an advantage to it being a sort of a public chat versus like a Zendesk, support chat, one-to-one chat. It was better
Yeah.
being able to see everyone being able to see it.
Yeah, it was the only way for me, for some of these events where I'm broadcasting. So students is one thing, right? Where the students don't have access to the Zoom feed, but then I also do a lot of presentations that are
Yeah.
to satellite campuses. So they will live stream, everybody's in one room. There'd be 20 to 50 people in a room, but there'll be several hundred or sometimes well over 1,000 people at all these different satellite campuses, usually schools in my
Mm.
case. And so the only, since they don't want everyone running Zoom from their device because that'll kill the bandwidth in the building, if that many people will log on and cause audio issues with echo of it playing off their phones and stuff, it allowed me to bring chat back to those events because there wasn't
Mm.
really a good way to do that without something like Dead Simple Chat.
Hmm. Yeah, okay, but then that can scale big to those numbers, and that's starts to be
Yes.
big money to make that work.
Hmm. Yeah, so that's what I was
Uh,
hoping for in Obvio, but I know it can be a little challenging. Like you'd probably have to disable, like for a lot of Obvio users, they would need to choose one or the other. I'm going to use Zoom chat or I'm going to use Obvio chat or whatever it's called, because otherwise, you've got two channels and people don't know where to go.
yeah, yeah, it's a really interesting use case. We're often thinking of the dashboard about how we get people into Zoom, but you kind of talking about being able to use the dashboard as the place that people are accessing the event, and then seeing it, in another way. Yeah, it's a very interesting use case, but it could work with what we're talking about. Um,
I
yeah,
love that. Can you
interesting.
share a little bit more about the discussion forum model? I don't know if you're ready to reveal that yet or whatever, but just curious why
Yeah,
you
I
guys
mean,
are leaning that way.
we're just it really is just ideas at the moment, but it's just thinking more along the lines of almost like a Facebook comments on something, right? Where it's not necessarily real time. You know the difference. Messenger is real time. The comments are kind of real time, right? Because you can be typing a comment and you don't see another one appear, and then it does appear, and it can be the reply threads on that and stuff. And so it's thinking through things like, do we allow or do we build in replies? Is that important? And then does it appear on different pages? And so that the discussion forum, I using that term is less about, okay, here's a topic and now talk about this topic. It's less about that. It's more about how that infrastructure works, where people are posting and then on an update schedule, it might update every 30 seconds or something, right? Rather than instantly seeing it and going back and forth and having a discussion. It's not so much about that real time conversation, but more comments like, "Hey, from Adelaide, Australia," and then really loving this event. You know, less. I don't know. I was going to say less interaction, but it's not quite that. But it's less individual interaction, and it's more broadcast sort of comments, that type of thing. Comments more than chat, I think, is probably a good way to say it.
And I'm,
Um,
I'm guessing from a tech angle, what that allows you to do is, let's say it updates, you set your system to update those messages every 30 seconds. And then
mhm.
at that 30-second mark, there could be one in queue or there could be, 200 in queue. And it's just,
Yeah.
you're able to sort of divide that up for bandwidth.
Yeah, and that's the
Yeah.
thing, and that's the way the dashboard works now, right? Is that you can make a change on the dashboard, and within about a minute or so, you can be confident that everyone now has that update. And because what's happening in the background is it's sort of polling, and it's getting essentially a copy of all of that down. And so we've refined that over time to be comfortable that that can scale, and that's a really it's a really challenging thing to do, and it has been challenging for the 3 years we've been messing around with that, because the uniqueness of what we have with live events is that you can go to a website that has literally 0 users 1 minute and 10,000 users the next minute, and web services are just like, so what? Like you wanted to go from zero to 200 miles an hour instantly. It's like, but we have built a way to manage that. And so with everything, generally, if it works big, it works small. And so the idea that if we can run an event with a couple of 20,000 people, and they're commenting, and the dashboard's handling that and updating it and showing all those, then that's going to work for smaller events as well. And the things that we would like to tie into your point, Jeff, of it being tied in and as part of Ovio, is that then we can do things like point system, or like you can award a point for making a comment, and you can and you can track that. And to me, that's more data. That's another data point as well, that eventually we want to get to a point where you could select an attendee and then see all of their activity, and see what they did, and when they first went to the dashboard, and when they downloaded this PDF, and then they went to Zoom for 3 hours, and then they came back and they were on the dashboard and they posted a comment, and this is the comment, and those sorts of things. So yeah, I get sort of excited about that. I like the idea of also playing around with the chat transcripts. This is pie in the sky stuff. Don't get excited that this is happening anytime soon, because the connection between the two is a bit tricky. But offsetting, one of the things is that I'm thinking about is how we could take the chat transcripts that we have access to in the recordings and sort of pass that data back in, and now we could have reference to chat messages that people made during the Zoom meetings, and have that kind of tied in as data. So that's pretty cool too, right?
That's incredible. Yeah, everything I'm thinking through that I would want to implement, and not that you're designing this specifically for me, but um, kind of a combination of like a dead simple chat or Slido, Mukana for Grant and those who know what that is. All of those kind of functions is what feels like is a missing piece for me. And I don't think any of that in my mind, I don't feel like real time is needed. I feel like a minute or two update would be totally fine to serve the purpose. So any idea when something like that might show up on Avio?
No, you can tell the difference over time. You would see the difference when Blue speaks and when I'm speaking, and so there'll be things that I'll say, yeah, I don't see that happening anytime soon, and then the next day, Blue's hounding the developers to get this feature pushed through, and so I can never fully guess what are the priorities for Blue. It normally relates to some event, and it's like, we want this, we want it, and now we really need it because we told our end client that we're going to have this new feature, and so he pushes it through. So we have spoken about it, but I'm really not sure, and it really depends on those other things. So remember that marketplace has been this huge push and is coming along really, really nicely. Like it's really exciting, as you've seen, and I think that there's often these things are sort of the technical aspect of what we have to do as well. So with the marketplace at the moment, we're getting this builder working all really well. Now, one of the things that we need to do is get the load times really fast, because particularly when you're selling ads on Google to a site, those load time scores dramatically affect the effectiveness of the ad. But not only that people would not follow through, but that Google itself will demote that ad because the page time is not fast enough, the load speed. And so now we're working on really complex systems to generate these pages automatically really fast. And so that's you know that's a really important step, and clearly more important at this point than building out a chat system. So it's just one example, but we're getting that over the line. The Zoom attendance thing is working really well, and there's some tweaks to that are coming as well. And they're the key things of the broadcast features working really well now. So we're getting to this point now where the service, the service offering, is a complete event hosting platform in its own right, albeit basic. If you're not using any other external integrations, then it's a basic service, but you can run your events all on it. We get to that. That means that we go a bit more public with it, actually have our own marketing site that tells you about Ovio. What a crazy idea. And then that all starts to hopefully steamroll a little bit more, and we get more people using the platform. That means we can get some more developers, and we can keep things moving faster. So all of that to say, I don't know when. Yeah.
We'll just hope Tony Robbins sends an email. Thanks, Grant.
That's right. Yeah, I really need this. Yeah, exactly. And I've got a I got a tab open on my screen. It's called Pitch Hub. Um, and it's quite interesting. I was looking at it. It's about creating videos and all this sort of stuff. But the P Hub is just really concerning for me when I'm looking at my tabs. I'm just going to close. I'm going to close that. The P Hub is concerning. Pitch Hub. All right. So let's see. That was. I miss Heather. Heather, what's the next question? Oh, she's not here. Uh, okay. Richard is saying, Liz and I want to run a practice dress rehearsal, Obvio meeting with friends and colleagues. What is the best way to run a practice? The goal is to run practice sessions until it's smooth and natural. Amazing. Absolutely, the best way of doing it is to use any excuse to use the platform to run your meeting, and to consider it. You sort of shoehorn your meeting into kind of a mini event. And so you're thinking about people coming through to the dashboard and seeing the button and joining the meeting, and you joining the meeting before and having it all set up nicely, and thinking about how all of the things, how you're doing your sound, your setup, your camera, all of that. You test all of that out. You have whatever meeting and discussion that you need to have, and then you can ask for a sort of a debrief afterwards, and just ask people, hey, how did you find this? Was that all okay? Emails came through okay? All of those sorts of things, and thinking through that whole process, so that it just is a really natural progression for you then to do real events. So that was a big shift for us to go to not using a credit system and just having unlimited events. And this is one of those reasons that you don't need to be concerned if you're only gonna you have 10 or 20 people. I mean, you have 5 people in the little event, but they get sent the link as if it's a big event. All of that stuff just works, straight through, and you can say, I know we're just having a business meeting or a family meeting or a whatever, but I'm testing out an event platform and want to do it this way. So you're going to get an email from us, and click the button on that and step through the steps. And highly encourage that, to just play around with it. So you remember that everyone has unlimited events. So you could keep reusing that event. or or you could create a new event each time. Jeff, you do events. You do like meetings and stuff, like smaller meetings and stuff using Obvio, right?
Yeah, I have so I do a lot of live speaking with clients. So I always do a pre-event call and then a post-event call, kind of strategy call. And so I use it for that because it allows me to have access, like the buttons are like my audio visual writer, promotional materials. So you can get really creative using it for meetings. There's very few meetings that I have on regular vanilla Zoom, just because instead of having to find a link and post it in chat for my clients, I'm typically sending the same resources in each one of those meetings, as long as the meeting, is the same topic or same meeting type. And so the buttons just stay static and I just log in through Obvio.
Nice. Yeah, I think Muddy does a similar thing too, right? Little thumbs up from Muddy. Yep. Yeah. So yeah, go for it. Any ideas, Richard? You're muted somehow, Richard.
Richard? Oh, sorry.
Yes,
Can you
okay.
hear me now?
I can. Well done.
Good, good, good. Turn the mic on, basic. There's an on button. Yeah, one of my consultants when I worked in electronics, somebody else called him in and he said, "Hey, you're supposed to turn the machine on before you use it." That
Who
cost the
knew?
company $300 for him just to walk in the door. But so turn the button on, everybody. Plug it in. My question is we don't have our dashboard built yet. So do I try to build it myself? Do I put in a request for you guys to build it? What do you think is the best method? Because again, this is practice for our summit coming up in March.
Yeah, okay. Um, I, have you seen the workshop videos, sort of the walkthrough videos that Blue did? Have you seen some of those? Yes. So
Yes.
I would encourage you um, to open his video and then just kind of scrub and stop and pause it, and then do some of those steps of building out the dashboard. Um, and then I think it becomes uh, it becomes easier to understand when you actually start to do it yourself, and really play around with it. Um, Now, in saying that though, not everyone has the eye for, good design and good layout and all of that. And so um, there there are, do you know, I'd like to get some sort of freelance graphic designers that would work on the platform for us. So it's one thing. Sometimes what we do, we've got a few designers that have designed dashboards for us, but not built them.
Mm.
And so they would create a flat image file or a PDF or something for us, and they'd say, like, here's a good design for your dashboard. And
Gotcha.
that's really helpful, because then we look at that and we basically try to copy it, and we do as best we can to get as close to that as possible. What I'd really like is to get a few people that are designers slash web developers, sort of, that can actually build them out, and then that's a service that they can be like, I can build one out for you, and that sort of thing. So but we've got a few people, in here that have a good eye for it and stuff as well. But
Mm.
I guess particularly when you're testing with friends and stuff, you probably don't have to get too hung up on how it looks, but just that it's functioning really well, and that and so you could play with that. Is that
Yes,
helpful?
and as I'm listening to people like you and Jeff, I'm thinking, when we have smaller meetings with old clients, that I should say old, where via I should rephrase that, VIP clients,
Right.
not old clients. that we have
It's
small meetings, you know, like 5
mhm.
people, and it'd be a great opportunity to showcase that just for their ease of use and practice,
Mhm.
because it's better than 5 than when you're going to 60 and go, oh, what was that button I'm supposed to do?
Yeah. Do you know something that I'm just doing? You know, I run an event business, event production business here in Australia, and something we're just going through now is sort of a rebranding. And we've got a designer to do a style guide for us, and it's becoming so helpful. Like I can't believe how I haven't done this in the past.
Hmm.
To have a color palette to use, and she actually spent a whole bunch of time matching our logo with 5 or 6 different colors in different sort of pastel colors as well as stronger colors. And now it's just something I don't even have to think about. I'm able to
Yeah.
build out sites, build out like all sorts of different places that you end up needing to do some colors. You need to choose a color for this, and you need to choose color for that. Well, now I've got a selection of colors that I know well together, that will be consistent for my brand, and that all work. And having guidelines, I think for lots of us, I think this would be the case, that we might know how to do something, but we don't necessarily know what are the good guidelines to make sure it looks good. So technically, I know how to put a logo in, but
Yes.
but um, but how much space should I leave around the logo, for example?
Yes.
Things like that. So I highly recommend this process to people as far as getting a designer to make a style guide for you, so that then when it comes to just doing a really simple event, you might find that you've got a really nice background you can use and a couple of buttons, the colors to use, and you're done. It makes such a difference. And so I sort of learnt even about how the spaces around a logo, the minimum space required, is kind of these letter sizes around the logo and things like that. That then you get this nice little PDF, and it explains this is how the logo will work. Never do it like this. Always do it like this. If it has to be on black, do it like this. If it has to be on white, do it like this. And now you're set, And so I know that's an investment, but man, it makes such a difference when you're going to build out things, or you're building your social media profile. Okay, that's how my logo looks. That's the color I use. That's the image I use. I'm done. So
It's a great idea. What price
yeah,
range are they usually, what are you looking at? Is it
yeah,
like 1,000 plus automatically, or?
you're in the thousands, yeah. But I guess
Okay,
it depends on the designer, and I think you could go to places like 99 Designs, and
sure.
you could get people that will. I'm not sure how they do it with a style guide. Like with a logo, you can pay like $100, and you'll get a couple of hundred people will give options for a logo, right? And you pay $100, they get the $100 and done. But they have all these add-on services, and so I don't know how much the style guide is, but I know it's one of the options. And then you deal with this person, and they build out this style guide, and so that's a place you could start. But there's lots of places, all the different freelance sites that you can find designers on, and I'm sure you'll get a wide gamut of different prices from different people,
Yeah, that
based
makes
on what
sense.
they have. Yeah. So
Probably, thinking about this as we're talking and kind of brainstorming in my head, I think that given the time, I don't want to be an expert in building stuff. I want to be an expert in what we're providing for our customers. But in the meantime, if I play with it myself, listen to Blue, listen to his videos, listen
yeah,
to you, I
yeah,
become a master of that. And for our colleagues and our audience, a lot of times I don't want to spend $1,000 and have them to say,
yeah,
that's, you know,
yeah, yeah.
so I want to, let's get into orbit, and then I can plan the moon landing.
100%.
What do you
Yeah,
think?
and yeah, absolutely that's the way to go. And that's what I reiterate. Any excuse you can find to use the platform, it is worth it because then you're in there regularly and you're using it all, so that when the higher pressure time comes of the event, you're able to run with it. You know,
Great.
because you've played around with it. So I'm concentrating on the conversation and I'm not tracking the chat. So you need to keep me honest there. If you we might find it a bit easier to raise hands and things. So Bez, like you have.
So I have a question for Jeff, but I want to just make a quick reference to style guides. Um, they are worth their weight in gold because besides some of the things you mentioned, Grant, even selection of fonts, because you can have a nice design and then you think you're all world and you're really just junior varsity and you start using like 3 or 4 different fonts in the same document in the same thing and it makes everything look ugly. But those style guides, it's just the true north and it makes everything cohesive, coherent, and it just works. I mean, I don't know what to tell you other than when it's done right and you find someone that does it right for you and you hear that term look and feel, it makes you feel a certain way. That's how you know when you've got a good one. So um don't try to JV it. Find and look, you may find like some people experiment with other countries in the late 90s when people were bringing website projects to us. I found some of my best designers in Eastern Bloc countries because they just had a different look and feel, and it was clean. Now that's changed over time, but you'll find somebody. But even go to a local art school, and it may be a really well in your backyard. You may not know you have a world-renowned art school, right? Depending where you live, or you have access to that. Some of their students are very good, and they've been taught well on that style guides and things like that. Hey, it doesn't always have to be expensive, but it should make you feel a certain way, and that's right there is worth its weight in gold. So
Yeah, I totally agree. And fonts is a great example because we've integrated Google Fonts throughout Obvio, and there's only 1,500 to choose from. So so it's a really good example because our designer gave us a few options of saying, here's a combination of fonts that could work well together, and she was like, and here's one that's got is a serif font that works well with a sans serif font as only for headings, and there's things like that I just hadn't thought about, and then I'm like, yes, that does work, and now I know technically what that is. I know that it's that it's this font and then this font, and I can change them around. They work well together, and so you just save so much time in thinking, oh, this is a good font, I think. So yeah. Anyway,
yeah,
I think
and
we've
those
hammered that
and
point home.
and it makes you look 10 times more professional. Like that look and feel that you're feeling gets moved over to your clients. Like they feel that way. And so it, I don't know what to say. There is something to be said of finding someone and getting a great style guide because it, like you said, Grant, it just makes everything easier. It's like you don't really have to think about selecting. It's been selected and it's already predetermined why you selected that and the look and
Yep.
feel you're going after, right? So that takes the thinking out. And then because if we're not pros in that, we're just JV it. We're just junior varsity. And that's one thing. Like I got a friend that I'm blessed to have that he's a pro in that, but I could
Right.
never even come 1/10 close to him. No.
Yeah, well, and you can see that Blue has a really good eye as well, right? And so you can see that when he builds out dashboards, and critiques dashboards, that he does just have a good natural eye, and then he even still uses designers for other stuff as well, you know. And so it's totally the first impression that our potential attendees have of our events is, how does it look? How does our marketing material look? And we totally judge events by that. Like, what else have we got to judge it? But we're just like, oh, that's weird. Are they seriously using Comic Sans for their, you know, for their font, you know? And so yeah, you're just like, oh, this is a budget, you know, a little budget show, so I'm not interested. But then something that looks really slick and it's really nicely thought out and designed well, it's like, okay, these guys are serious.
And you know, we spend a lot of time on the copy and what we're trying to get across, you know, for a right fit client. Like, we spend a lot of time with the words. Well, let those words be translated into some graphic art assets you have that
That's true.
match, right? And so that feeling, like that first impression, like you said, Grant, that can make you look pro or not pro.
Right.
Like,
100%.
you could be very well educated and really good at your craft, but you know, that first impression is gold. Jeff, I want to ask you a quick question. You said something about being creative and what you do. And Grant, I don't know if this is allowable, but could you show us your creativity?
I'll leave that up to Grant. I'm happy to share if that's helpful.
Yeah, you totally can. Be happy to.
Okay. Yeah, give me just a second to pull this up and share my screen. I'm going to share kind of one of my common meetings that I do. So while I'm pulling this up, I'll just explain for context. So I speak in the education industry. And so this particular dashboard I'm going to show you is for a pre-event call where I talk through the event details with my clients. And with that said, let me pop on over to the dashboard. All righty. Preview here. So when people join the meeting, there's a couple things that I have set up here sort of for best practices, and this isn't displaying quite perfectly because it's in preview mode. It looks a little better design-wise for clients. But when they schedule a meeting with me in Calendly, they're going to the sign up page in Obvio, right? That's where they got to enter their name and their email that registers them as an attendee. And it also applies a rule. The rule it adds is called join meeting. So the button to join the meeting on Zoom right here only appears to people that have the join meeting tag applied. When I finish a meeting on Zoom with one of these clients, I manually go in to the attendees list. I search the name of the attendee I just had the meeting with, and I delete the little join meeting tag. That way, if they come back to the dashboard to read through the setup and tech guides for my presentations or look at the promotional materials, and I'm in a meeting, in the same meeting an hour later with a different client, they can't accidentally hop into that meeting. Who's this random person that just showed up in here? Oh, what's going on? So I manually remove that. So that prevents me. Now, you could argue that I should add more layers of security, whatever. I've never had somebody show up in the wrong meeting, and I've been doing this for, I think, over a year now. So here's the different buttons. It has a quick agenda for the call, but then as you can see, as I remove the preview, it says join Zoom meeting, right? So if you're going to be meeting with me, that's going to pop up and appear there. And then I've got my Meet Jeff if someone wants a bio. All the frequently asked questions that people ask before an event are here. And so it's great. And what I can do is following the meeting, I send clients, I sort of have a templated email just for efficiency with the notes from our call. And I say, by the way, if you want to access any of the resources shared during our call, click this link. And it's a link right back here to the dashboard. So these items stay here, evergreen, even when we don't have a meeting, that they can come back and access at any time. And so it's a great way to have that all in one spot, both during the Zoom meeting and for anyone that wants to reference it after the call.
That's awesome. Thank you, Jeff. It makes me feel like we need to do one of these every week. We should have someone show their dashboards. It's very interesting.
Happy to share.
Thank you.
Can,
Hey,
can I
Robin.
ask Jeff a question?
Yeah.
Don't
Ask,
mute yet,
ask
Jeff.
Jeff.
Wait. Did you say that you connected Calendly so when they request an appointment with you, it automatically puts them into Obvio?
Before I answer your question, Grant, I'd like to be put on payroll since I'm getting questions to you personally. I would appreciate that. We can discuss the salary later, but if you can just make sure that happens. Yes.
Yeah.
So in Calendly, to answer your question, Robin, so in Calendly or pretty much any scheduling software, you can choose, do you want it to be, is it a phone call? Is it Zoom? Is it etc.? And there's usually an option called custom link. Now, some of the scheduling softwares don't have that option. Calendly happens to, which is one of the reasons why I've stayed there when I've explored other options. Custom link is then where you would enter the URL for your Obvio signup page because that's going to get them in the right spot. I'm about to switch all of my signups from .obv.io to Zoomiverse because I found that if clients, if they've used Calendly before, they're used to seeing phone call, Zoom meeting, Google Meet, like there's like four options it could be, right? So when they see .obv.io in their brain, they're like, oh, I don't know what this is. And so I've had clients not join, and then I call them on the phone. I'm like, hey, are you having technical difficulties? And they're like, oh, I thought you were going to call me. I'm like, well, no, there's a meeting link. And they'll go, I didn't see the Zoom link, right? How often do we hear that for people that aren't used to our events, right, in our ecosystem? So by switching that to the new .zoomiverse, which Avio now offers, I think just seeing the word Zoom is going to in their mind, oh, this is what I need to click, right? They don't care if it's Zoom. It just in their mind, I think that I'm going to have less issues. So that's the game plan.
So have these people already been put into Obvio, or is it kind of being used like an opt-in page?
Exactly like an opt-in. Yep. So they're getting sent a
Fantastic.
Calendly invitation. They're signing themselves up. So I don't have to do anything. I just
That's
show up in
amazing.
Zoom. I get all
Put
the
him on
benefits of
payroll,
Avio.
Grant.
It's so good. Yeah,
It's really cool.
Jeff's been pushing the boundaries of Ovio from day one, which is really cool. I like the way you think, Jeff, because you sort of this should be possible. Why,
That's
just
fantastic.
My
keep
wife
kind of
will tell
hacking
you I
away at
push the boundaries in all areas, but
it.
I
Right.
especially enjoy
Lucky
doing it
woman.
now.
Nice. Very good. I feel an Ovio price increase coming. Yeah, that's right. Just to pay Jeff. That's all that's for. Well, we'll just the more you do this sort of stuff, Jeff, where you're showing off Ovio well, the more I increase your wish list items up. They just go up the list higher and higher.
In that case, I've got 5 more dashboards to demo. Fasten your seatbelts. Gonna learn a lot.
Nice. That's great. Thank you. It's also there's a lot happening today. For me, we've got a couple of big events, and we're doing some cool stuff with some Obvio events that are regular, sort of three day events, but every 2 weeks. And so we're starting to increase the amount of events we're doing and starting to push into some cloud production, running some events in the cloud and stuff. So, which is really, really fun. So, playing around with all that sort of fun stuff. So all that to say that my mind is a little divided, but we do really, we do value these calls and your questions and making sure that you feel connected to Obvio and feel like you can get the support that you might want. Wonderful. So yes, and Blue was also going to come on, and he had an emergency in the studio as well, so that pulled him away. So it's going to be a slightly shorter time, but I've still got another half an hour or so. So as I look at what people have posted, I don't think. there was Muddy was asking about the town hall, which is a new template, and that's really close. And so I think within the next couple of weeks, Blue will be able to demo that a bit more and show you a whole nother template, which we're excited about. Anyone else? Hey, Martin.
Are you able to give a brief description of that template, Grant?
It's more of a hero type template, sort of that works around imagery. So the town hall idea, or the term town hall, was to think of it as you're meeting with a personality or something, and so it's very much a big hero shot type idea, with a couple of buttons and just sort of more simple, think kind of campaign type stuff, and so that's the direction of it. But we'll be able to show you
Great, thank you.
sometime. Yeah. Go ahead, Martin.
So I put the question in chat. Is there a way to do a dynamic countdown clock? So I want the date of the event that it counts down to be dynamically populated by a field, or what do you guys call them? Oh, you call them groups in Obvio? Or do
Right.
I need to write custom code and apply it as an HTML embedded thing, because I don't want to have to recreate an Obvio dashboard just so that they know when the right event. I want to use the same dashboard multiple times over and over again, so that if you come in and it's not your time, because I'm doing 3 events in different days and some people have signed up for the right one, I want them to say your event starts here, and that kind of thing.
Yeah, no, that's cool. So I mean, the technical answer is no. There isn't a way to dynamically do that, but something that could work for you is that with each countdown, so you can add multiple countdowns, right? And what you can do, what you can't do. I just realized that we can't.
Oh, I think I see where you're going. You put a where clause that says you hard code
Exactly.
each one, and then you tag the person for the right event, and the right version of that shows up.
Well, sort of, yeah. So actually, what I didn't realize is there isn't visibility rules for countdowns. I thought there was. Anyway, so that was my thinking, is that, for a button, you can do a visibility rule that says show it from this time until this time. And so in theory, that was my thinking, but actually I think you can't at the moment, was to put a date in, have the countdown, and then decide when you want that visible, and then have it hide afterwards.
No, actually, I think you gave me the idea. So I put 3 countdowns on the thing because I have 3 events. The visibility rule is based on a tag, not a thing. So if you're tagged for event 1, you see it. If you're not, you don't see that countdown clock.
Yeah, unfortunately, we don't have that on the countdown clock, though. We don't have.
You don't have visibility rules?
No.
Oh,
No.
really?
Not yet. So
that is problematic.
Yeah. So all you can do there is enable it and disable it. So you could set up a whole bunch of them, but then just quickly come in and enable it and disable it.
Do you allow for custom embed codes?
Yes. Yeah. So
I can put an H,
totally
I
build
just
your
go
own.
get it somewhere else.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, timeanddate.com have highly customizable ones, and of course, you can build your own. So you can add a blog post, and then.
Oh, so it has to be done in a blog post, which doesn't go up in the top.
No, you can't. You can't put it right at the top, but actually, it depends on the template that you're on.
Yeah, I'm using
So,
this specific
okay.
template.
Yeah. So by the time you don't have the countdowns there, you don't have to have all buttons there necessarily. And so then the first thing that does show is the blog posts.
Mhm.
And then you can put other buttons, like like you can see here, you can put other buttons in posts. So there's a few different ways you can do. You could do it in here.
Right, Andrew. All those slides are
Add.
loaded in now.
I think in add a resource.
Yeah, the agenda doesn't allow for dynamic values.
No,
There's
sorry,
another thing that would be nice. It'd be nice to allow dynamic values through the use of your fields in anywhere you want them to. So if you can grab data from, I'm sorry, what do you call fields? Groups. That would be very useful because I can send that data in as a group and you just use that as data anywhere
yeah,
throughout this. So that's an ad I would love for you guys to really consider. I don't think it's that complicated. It's just maybe
no,
something you guys haven't thought about, or maybe you have.
yeah. So yeah, there's
It
those
doesn't look
fields in
like
there will
it's
work.
opened.
So, but you're talking about using it as a data point to do something else, not just to
Yeah,
show the
I need to
text.
pass data from my CRM about what the person has done. So, and one
Yeah,
of them is like the date of the event. So that would be great for countdown clock.
yeah,
But your countdown widget doesn't do it, so I have to code something somehow. I
yeah.
haven't thought about what to do. That's why I wanted to come in here and ask before I started going down that rabbit hole.
Fair enough. Yeah. Well, yeah. So there's the HTML in the blog post and in text areas. Then you can put HTML. You can also
Mm-hmm.
do the HTML down here. You can put scripts in.
Oh,
So
okay.
you can put a div. You can put a div anywhere. Where you can put HTML. You can put a div in there, and then you can put your script down here to populate it. So you got
Mm-hmm.
control there. And then you've also got scripts that you can put any scripts you want on all of these pages. And so you can control a whole bunch of other things as far as doing scripts.
But
So
those dynamic HTML blocks will not pull from groups, or can I pull data from the groups as I'm putting that embed code, or is
yeah,
it just going to literally render whatever is in the block as a pre-block? So like
no,
if I write a block of HTML and then I want to pull a piece of a field, I'm sorry, a group, it can do that, right?
yeah.
Okay,
You
perfect.
can include dynamic data in these
Okay,
scripts.
cool.
Yeah, and same within the HTML within here, you can include it too. And so a perfect example of that is where we would hand off the email, first name, last name,
Mm-hmm.
to an embed, right? And so we did it for Slido, where when we ran questions through Slido, we were handing off the first name, last name, email, so it was already logged in. So they didn't, when you would have Slido embedded on the dashboard, they would enter questions, and it would immediately come up with their name because we'd already done that. We'd already handed that off. So that's an example of using the data.
Okay, I'll give it a whirl. Thank you.
Have a play. Yeah. Okay. Jeff, you're talking about passing data?
Yeah, is now a good time to kind of chat through that a
Yeah,
little bit?
yeah, do it.
So, I had this challenge, and I feel like we talked about it maybe recently on a previous call. But what I'm trying to do is pass attendee data so that they have less that they have to fill in when it comes to a form. So, in other words, if during check-in, I've asked for their job title, their organization name, maybe their location, city, and state, I'd love for them to be able to fill out a form, um, and be able to pull that information in. In other words, just for attendee experience, If you have, I'd rather not ask you the same question twice, right? I'd rather be able to pull that in. Is there any way to do that or parse that information? And if not, is that something that Obvio might consider for the future?
So
Thank you, Muddy. Yeah, form data is what we're talking about.
yeah, passing the form data off to something else.
I guess so. For my check-in for a recent event, I was asking, first name, last name when they sign up. And then the other thing is I was pulling in, not pulling in, but asking them, what's the name of your organization? When they went to fill out a form, an order form to purchase my product, which was an Obvio form, I had to ask organization name and that sort of thing again because I can download two separate CSV files, but it was a large event with a lot of attendees. And I was like, oh, I don't want to have to do a bunch of data
Mm,
management on the back end before I can hand this to my sales team to follow up.
mm,
And it just seemed like since the information's already under the attendee profile in Obvio, it seems like there would be a way to somehow parse that, or combine that so that I could download a single CSV file versus separate ones.
yeah. Yeah, okay. So when you do a form, when you download the form responses, what you'd
Hmm.
like is all attendee data. So if
Correct.
there's other fields, then have all of that. That
Exactly.
that seems a bit more straightforward. Um, I was starting down a line of thinking of webhooks and all sorts of stuff, but I don't. I think that that's a little more straightforward. Um, I'm gonna I'm gonna make a note of that to actually see how difficult that is. Where the data is coming from. I mean, it's coming from another place, but it may not actually be a big deal. But we can explore that because that actually does that seems quite helpful. So that yeah, if you have a group called organization, you've got their organization data there, then whatever form data they're filled in, you download that and you'll get all the groups and all the form data in the CSV. That's what you're on.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Yep, single export and just have everything there. And that way I can look across the columns. If they didn't complete the form, no biggie, and I can even reorder those or
Yes.
something. But right now, what we're
Hmm.
having to do is combine
Yeah.
multiple CSV files, hope we don't miss something. And yeah, I can go to
Right.
Zapier, webhook, that sort of thing. But if that breaks mid-event and you've got hundreds or thousands of attendees doing this, then it's like, okay, at what place did it break? You know what I mean? Trying to
Right. Right.
rerun. And
Totally.
I'd rather not add another piece of tech in there.
Yeah. No, that's fair enough.
Here's a suggestion. Have you guys considered just letting the forms pull group data right there so that when you put that organization, you put the field there. If there's values in the group, it shows up on the form and the user doesn't have to fill it again because then it will always come out in the export. So it's like a default value already there in the system. Most CRMs call this sticky data. Every CRM does this.
Yeah.
And
It's
since
probably
Obvio
not
is
even.
playing in that realm, it needs to do the same thing.
Yeah, possibly. Although I don't know. I don't know that it needs to be seen.
It would be
Um.
nice if it could be a hidden field, but I'm just saying, trying to make the
Right.
use case simple.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely it. Currently, that's not possible inside of Obvio, correct, Grant? There's not a hacky way to do that.
I don't think that there's not a default value at the moment on the form. That would be another a way to do it is to default value, and then just populate it with the group. So, I think it's adding groups. We'll explore that. And think it's got a good use case. Cool. That's on the list. Cool. Any other questions? No more there. No more in the chat. Oh, starting to dry up. Any other questions, anyone? Something you're playing around with?
Are you able to clone events?
Yep.
Okay, because I don't think I could see where to do that.
Yep. So just
And that would clone the dashboard and everything?
yeah. Let me show you that. You can see here some events. This is the event we're on now. So you're in the organization screen where you see all the events, and then you can duplicate, move, organization, and delete event. So duplicate and give the new name and the address, and then you can choose whether you want the areas, the Zoom areas, to be duplicated as well as or the rooms. No. Or and the rooms. It's not or. Oh, it's kind of or. You can choose whether you want the rooms done as well as the areas, and then you can also duplicate the broadcasts if you've got broadcasts in there.
Okay, I missed that. That was what I was thinking of doing to get around the thing, is to have 3 different dashboards and send people different magic links, so that I can do a countdown, which really felt annoying, but I would do it if that makes it easier.
Right. Fair enough. Cool. All right. Anyone else? I will call it quicker this time. Oh, Kat got in.
Hey,
Yes,
Grant, I just
hey
wanted to, are there any particular things that we should include in the verbiage for the waiver or tech check? Like best practices, make sure that we include certain things.
You know, I think that tech check has taken on has gone into a new realm where lots of people are familiar with Zoom. They've likely got it installed on their devices, and they're more familiar with it. 3 years ago, we sort of set it up where we were wanting to really make sure it was installed and they knew how to use it. And even in the tech check, we were saying, can you find the chat button, and do you know how to chat? And it was like checking those sorts of things so that we were more confident that they would be comfortable in the event. I don't think it needs that so much now, but the human touch of that is what's really amazing. So it still is. I think the tech check is still something that is highly valuable for ensuring that people's microphone, particularly microphone and camera, are working if you're doing breakout rooms, so that you don't waste valuable breakout room time with people not having a microphone working. I mean, it's such a train wreck when someone's microphone's not working, right? In a breakout room. And so going through a tech check to ensure that. So that's a roundabout way of saying that I think you can explain what this is. This is an opportunity to make sure that everything's working before the event even starts, so that you don't miss any of the event. That's a key part of the tech check. The waiver, I think, obviously it's a legal document. I'm not a lawyer. You should consult one about what you're getting people to sign. But there is something to be said for having recording permission, having their likeness potentially show up on marketing videos or things like that. Then there is a lot of value in that, actually getting a signed release. That's something. And then you can also use it as a commitment, that people are committing to the whole event, and they're, like you can sort of use it as a bit of a pledge almost, or an agreement where they're like, hey, we're taking this event really seriously. We want you to not just casually engage in this event, but we want you to really commit to it. And this is an opportunity for you to opt out. Like this is a time for you to say, I'm not going to half-ass this. I'm going to actually, I'm really going to give it my all, and I'm going to dedicate time to it and time and space. I'm going to have a dedicated space where I'm not distracted, and I'm really going to give it my all. And that's just another thing that you can use the waiver for. And it's just a way. It's a cool way of doing it, because it's like you're not even in the event yet, and you have to agree to this. And if you don't, then you're out, and that's okay. We'd rather you go before you even come to the event. We'd rather you leave than come and give a half-assed approach to it. So that's another way of doing it. So
thank you so much, and thanks, Jeff, for your notes too. Very helpful.
Anyone else? There was a blue sighting. I did see a blue sighting. So he still lives. So that's good.
He still lives.
He still lives. Oh, there he is. He's a voice of God. Anyone else? The questions are drying up, Blue, which is probably good for both of us.
Yeah.
Perfect timing for me.
Yeah.
I had just something. Thank you, Jeff. You've given me some things to think about, and I've seen a lot of comments about branding in the chat, which might be something to consider for future. But it was a great conversation around that. The last question I had was, and I can't remember it right now. I'm sorry.
I got excited. I
was excited too.
I got my notepad out. I was like, this is going to be amazing. And you just left
I'll remember it tonight.
You'll remember it tonight. And that's a good point, that the dashboard for this event is always open, and you can always post questions on that Ask a Question. And so, Bez, when you remember tonight, you could just go back to the dashboard, post the question, and it'll be sitting there ready for next week. And even if you can't join next week, you can catch the recording of it on YouTube. So Jeff's taken a call. Someone's seen his dashboard, and they're like, we want you to build out our dashboards now. It's amazing. He's getting more work as we speak.
No, I like because I want to start getting into Obvio, because I have the event and everything I'm building, strategizing for. But I always think about, once I get in there, I want to have some reps in already. So maybe I'll start running some meetings and that are very intentional, and use some of the bells and whistles so I know how they operate.
Yep.
And I'm just thinking of different things. Someone said, hey, I'm going to use it for my Final Four. And I'm like, I was interested. Like, what's that? I know what Final Four is, but I'm like, how are you going to use it in the Final Four? But yeah, it just gave me ideas to, maybe I need to start incorporating it. So when I do my event, it's old hat, I know how to troubleshoot or do stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's absolutely the best way to learn it, is to learn it in situation, like you're actually using it with real people, and you're trying to mess around with it. I would encourage you, like, if there's an opportunity for you to be able to do it where you're not hosting the meeting, that's even better. Like if it's someone else's meeting, or it's something else where you can just kind of sit back and tech it, and you're not doing what I'm doing right now. Which is, running the meeting as well as checking questions and doing all that. If you can spread that out a little bit, it's a really good way to do it. And you can kind of sit back and just, use someone else's event to learn it. So there you go. Hey, Justin, jumping in last minute. So you hanging out, or have you got a question? Because we could be wrapping up.
I do have a
Yeah, I was
question.
thinking about last night about
Cool.
going through the process on that.
I'm
like,
currently
I was
running an
wondering if
event and I'm seeing
sending
some
it in
slowness with
Slack,
keep syncing
obviously we've got
into
machines
Avio,
with
and I was
backup
wondering if there's
machines,
any
and it'd
issues
be nice
going
if
on.
we could just
Like some
make
people
it
bought
look
and
like
it's been
both
10 plus minutes.
me and
Yeah. Okay.
Guy could use. and
I'll
across
address that
multiple
just really,
machines,
really
that's-
quickly. We're running an event right now as well, and I'm seeing about the same the same timeline. And it's the problem is actually not on our end. The problem is on Keep's end, with webhooks taking up to 10 minutes to actually fire from Keep. Because once they fire from Keep, we get it and it's done. But we had somebody who purchased yesterday for the event that we're in, and it was like 12 minutes before the webhook fired, and we were just like, incidentally, I'm also seeing the same thing with a community, because we were doing a little bit of testing with this. I'm seeing the same thing with triggers from tag-based triggers from Keep to Zapier as well, taking about 10 minutes, which is confusing to me. But yeah, nothing that we can control, but that's what it's looking at right now, Justin.
Fair enough.
And it's usually 2 to 3 minutes. It's usually way faster, but it's just taking time for some reason.
Which brings up a feature request. If it's possible to somehow expose like last updated or like something, because I've more than once I've contacted guys asking about slowness when I'm running an event. We're kind of blind to, is there an issue or just slowness?
Yeah, so we don't actually, with Keep anyway, that's a difficult one to do, because we may go 30 hours without getting an update because no updates were made. And so it would appear as though if we were to put that visually inside the UX, it'd be like, last update received from Keep 30 hours ago. That looks like there's a problem, but it's also possible that no contacts were updated. So what I'd say is, during an event, if you want to trigger something inside of the key, this is true of Keep and a couple of it's not true of all of them. So I'll tell you the integrations this is not true of. This is not true for HubSpot, and this is not true for Go High Level, and it's not true for Zapier. It is true for the other ones. There is an import attendees button on the integration settings page, which can be triggered manually. And that, because it doesn't rely on webhooks, it relies on us going and getting the information at that time. It'll update all of your attendees almost right away. And it doesn't double import. It will just update existing or import new. So it'll do either of the two. That button has a limit on it, which means, and the limitation is it can only be pressed once every 15 minutes. Because again, we don't want to just kind of clog up various APIs and so on and so forth. But if you're ever wondering if there's an issue, you can just pop in and click that button and see if the connection, if it updates your people. The smaller events don't take very long to update. The larger ones do, just based on API throttling and how often we can make calls. I think I don't remember what Keeps is, but it's like it's 120 a minute or something like that.
Sounds good. And then I have a bug report that I sent to the help desk earlier today. I noticed on the classic template, I could no longer actually sort the sidebar. I used to be able to like add buttons and then move them all the way to the top. There was no way for me to get a handle or anything for me to actually move it.
That's interesting.
That is give me half a second.
I'm going to have a look at myself with that.
Have that little, packet plane, yeah. Why is that not clearing?
And Grant, I sent you the link to the dashboard, just in case it's something with particular to my dashboard.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'll check this one first.
Hey, sorry.
I'm just going back
Okay,
to a different view just to check.
So
These are the start ones. Why is it not fading?
Justin, you're talking about in the sidebar.
Yeah, at one point I used to be able to move a whole section so I could reorder them.
Actually,
Hmm.
yeah. That is the. I have no
technic-
idea
the-
why.
The technical term for what's happened there is oops.
It's a
Yeah.
feature.
It's
Sure, we'll call it that.
That was
Yeah, that-
unintended.
It's never a bug. It's always a feature.
Eh, you're just. Eh.
It's hard to justify this one, but
That's what it's.
sure.
That's what we software developers call it. Never bugs.
That's right, yeah.
They're just
Yeah.
features.
Yeah.
May not be what you
Yeah.
wanted.
That's a work in progress. Yeah. Okay. That shouldn't be too hard to fix, but it should be fixed.
Slide.
Sounds good.
15,
Those are the only two things I had.
16,
Awesome.
17,
Thank you, Justin.
18.
All right.
19,
Now's the time,
20.
people.
Somebody counting? What's going on?
22,
You know, I
23.
thought it was just me, but like I kept hearing
Oh.
these voices in the background.
I just want to know how high they can
me,
go.
sorry.
We're just all gonna mute ourselves now and see who is it? Who's doing it?
Oh, everyone. It's Steve behind me. Everyone say hello to Steve.
Hi, Steve.
Damn it, Steve! Not so loud.
I realized I've got a little boundary mic right in front of him, and he's whispering sweet nothings into it. But there we go.
That was the question I had. Like, I'm hearing voices in my head. Can
You're
you help
right.
me?
I don't think Obvio has a feature for that.
No, but I have found the mute button, so that's sorted. Got to the bottom of that, Muddy. You'll be able to sleep tonight. All right. I think we're calling it blue. Thank you, everyone. Same time next week, 5 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday. And as I said, put questions in during the week, and then they'll be up straight up first when we start next week. So you can post them anytime. Awesome. Thank you, everyone. See you next week. Bye-bye.